This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one. One mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts, Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner, Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. How nice to be with you.
Today, we have a great show. We're talking about freedom from past dictates. Science shows that memories can pass through generations via our DNA. We carry emotional patterns from people we never even knew, which leads to recreating situations in the present to resolve problems from the past. Stay tuned to learn how to free yourself from past dictates and to go forward unfettered to pursue a life of liberty and happiness.
Well, on this 4th of July, we're going to be all over the place, I think, celebrating things. So, if you want to join us outside of this show, please contact us at our website, www.consciousconversationswithjoan with Joan and Janet. There you're going to find out all the things that both Joan and I do. All these podcasts from these recordings are there. Our blogs, both Joan and I write, and about what's going on in life, and we notice in our groups, and our meetup schedules are there. Joan up in the Puget Sound area of Washington, and me here in the Portland, Oregon area, and the way we work with clients. And you'll find out all that information there. Also, our Twitter, Facebook, YouTube links, social media goodies are on that site. So what else have we got going on, Joan?
Well, I do want to encourage people to go to our site, because when you go there, you can get free stuff from us. So Janet has a special report on top 10 tips for transformation. And I also have a special technique for navigating this perfect storm. So you will get that if you go to our website and nowhere else. Also, as she mentioned, our website has all the social media stuff. So if you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, the links are on the site there. I want to let folks know about my meetups specifically. I have meetups beginning starting this week. This Saturday on July 7th, I'm going to be in Tacoma. And then on Sunday, July 15th, I'm going to be in Seattle. And in University Place on July the 21st, and then on Vashon Island on July the 28th. And also, I have a summer coaching special that is starting on the 13th. That's when it is. The doors are opening to it. So if you want my personal help on any specific issue that you want to transform, because we are all hitting this really big breakthrough period. So I have opened up, if this is a really short term, 4 or 5 sessions, go to my website, joan-newcomb.com, and look at the coaching program there. What about your groups, Janet?
Well, I do groups here at my home in Portland, and I have meetups on Tuesday evenings and Thursday afternoons, and you're more than welcome to contact me through that or through our website. And also on Thursdays at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. Pacific, I have groups via Zoom video conferencing, which are live interactive events for all of us, for all of those that aren't close to either Joan or I, but would like a personal experience. This is the best it gets, man. I mean, we just have incredible times, profound and humor and everything. So if you are someplace other than Portland, Oregon, or even on the boundaries of Portland, because traffic can get so heavy sometimes, join me on those times, and you can get to me at janetb@janetandbeyond.com for the registration packet for those groups. And it's just marvelous. Small group dynamics like that works really well. So, oh gosh, Joan, there's stuff all over the place here. So let's been in trying to focus there. That was interesting for sure on what this show is going to cover today. So I think the fireworks are already at play inside. So what are you noticing?
Yes, the fireworks are definitely already at play. I think we're all collectively hitting this breakthrough point, but what comes beyond that is freedom from it. And I think we're all more focusing that we're on the way down, about to hit the pavement, and not being aware of how easy and effortless it can be to just turn around and start going back up again.
Well, this is always interest for you, our listeners. For Joan and I, we both lead groups. We write weekly. We are doing our own and being ourselves in the middle of all that. And we always have different perspectives that we offer. So when we have our prep meeting and we bring all that together, it's sometimes challenging to find, is there a center theme or a couple of themes or whatever's going on? But we're all noticing information, and we're all experiencing information and feeling information. And it's been in all this that's come up with political situations, and we're all aware of what's going on. There's so much about ourselves we're finding out. And in that is blessing, that is grace, that is consciousness at play. And we're here to help provide a format, but also hold that space for you, our listeners, with us, that everything is all right. So this stuff is deep. A lot of it's very deep. That's what we were noticing, Joan, right? With the emotional and genetic information.
Yes. Yes, so that I was noticing that specifically, that we have, we carry within us memories from previous generations. My original metaphysical training taught that there is a genetic memory area in the back lobes of your brain. There, science has been saying for quite a few years, they've studied this. I mean, most notably, they can see this in lab rats and things like that they will genetically carry on learning.
Yeah, right.
But also we have within us, we will carry on not only the learning, but we will carry on the trauma, we will carry on the feelings. And then what happens is that we will recreate situations to resolve problems from the past, which were actually resolved 150 years ago.
Yeah, death has a resolution to it on one level, but obviously not on all levels. That's what's interesting about this. Yeah. Oh, gosh. Yeah. And a lot of things are coming up. And this is reawakening what feels like new in the moment, but so much of what we're seeing are patterns, and it's calling on those memories. And for people that are still living, the past is their present, right? They're old enough to have been in a situation where feels like just the same thing. And I think that's what's key, is that it feels like the same thing. And that's because it's triggering those same emotions, those traumas, those highs and lows that are present in us. So we do feel like we've been here before, even if you haven't been there before. So
yeah, and then we'll see these posts on social media, we'll see these headlines in the news, and it's like, oh my God, we are going back to 20, 30 years ago, 50, 60 years ago. And then astrologically there'll be patterns coming around, like there's something happening like this week, like today, there's something that the last time this happened, and I don't remember what it is astrologically, but it was in 1939, which is when Europe entered World War II. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. that's exciting. And we're not in the past. We are physically in the present. We are in a different reality. We don't have to recreate those experiences. We actually have incredible, potent power right here and now to have a different experience.
Right. And I think that's what you have to appreciate. When you get triggered into a reaction, it feels like it's the same exact thing. And really, it's not. At times, I'm sure at certain times it is, and I don't want to degrade anyone's experience. It is that the world in 1939 is not the world that it is now. There are so much more of us. There are so much more technology. There's so much just more of everything and that has a power, and it's how you use it. And I think we're also holding more awareness of, it's just not me and my neighbor, it's the whole city, it's the whole state, it's the whole country that is in that flux of it, the flow and the flux of the flow, the flow of the flux.
What the flux is going on?
Yeah, really. So it's not just you and me per se, and you just see how these ripples are very, very powerful and dynamic, and there's always this opportunity that who's going to be in the path of that ripple will have a different response, a new opportunity. Potential is engaged. So that's why this is so momentous, I think, and phenomenal.
And from the perspective of consciousness, it's very exciting. But from the perspective of our bodies, you can understand why there's heightened anxiety going on.
Height and anxiety. Okay. Right. We'll have to break those two apart. Let's break those apart, everybody. Yeah. So what does today bring us, do you think?
That's good question. But what it's feeling like, you mentioned about breaking it apart, and it does feel like we should pause for a break here. So we have to stop for a commercial break, but stay tuned because we are talking about consciousness and freedom from past dictates when we come right back.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to Joan-Newcomb.com. That's Joan-Newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking about consciousness and freedom from past dictates.
Yeah.
And present dictates, and a few and wannabe dictates.
Do we want to follow our script there and share more about things, or do we want to go more to our
Okay, so actually what that script there is, Janet, is that we share that part before the next commercial, but we talk more right now about the topic.
I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. I could swear this.
We made some changes on you, didn't we?
All right. Well, that part of me is out there, and there's that part out there. It's just very explosive inside, and I'm not feeling the explosion so much as where I find myself to be. Right. There's differences. And you, our listeners out there, you're feeling many different things. So we're just going to go to heart space, which is where we always are anyway before we start this. But just notice, just breathe, just allow yourself to put all that over there a little bit as much as you can. And find the river, I suppose. Joan's always on the river. Just notice that flow and the quiet and how it is real in all of that that's there. So okay, that feels better. Thank you, Joan.
Yeah, I understand. It's like, it's like defaulting to past patterns, and what do we actually, that's a very good point. It's like, what do we do to calm ourselves in the midst of all this?
Yeah.
And so, taking a moment to drop into heart space. For me, it would be like being in the present moment or being in present time. I also like to go for walks and walk through doors to parallel universes, because that's a pretty no effort way to get outside of myself and to completely shift my state. So we're all looking at ways of shifting our state so we don't feel like we're walking through the past.
Well, I think you make a very good point about how it's part of old patterns.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, because you can feel this distraction and all this stuff going on, and might have a tendency to think that it's the same old. And really it's not, because you're present now. You have skill sets. We all have skill sets, whether it's through meditation or mindfulness or what all those wonderful practices are that we have, heart-centered awareness. And you can stop and you can observe that as part of a pattern. And, oh, that's the past. And I'm going to choose in this moment to not be in my panic or connection to the past the way I might have. I'm going to choose to connect to it this way now. And that's what being present is about. And being able to, if you're fortunate to have a radio show partner who can say, oh, okay, let's take a commercial break, or whatever it might be.
Keeps track of time in the midst of all this swirl, right?
And how we help each other go, okay, recalibrate, and puts the stop in it. So just we're going to hold that there's more awareness for that for all of us, especially today as things get explosive. So just notice. Things are untwisting, Joan, I think, in some way for all of us. We do get our knickers in a twist, right?
Yep.
So
actually, that's a very good point. So I want to let folks know, because we're talking about energy here. And so the way you and I notice things is we notice them in terms of frequency and vibration, and we notice them in terms of energy patterns. Mm-hmm. So if you think about reality, not just being the reality that you get up in the morning, get yourself a cup of coffee, but what goes into making reality. And it's not just, we're all a bunch of atoms and molecules. We're also these energy patterns that you could even think of them as pixels that go into creating what we experience here as consciousness in physical form. And what we are noticing is the different patterns that are running that transcend time. transcend time and space, because as consciousness, we're outside of time and space. And so we can recognize the patterns that are running through us individually. And as I said, we are connecting to, memories from people we never even knew. It's like, the great grandmother that got off the boat at Ellis Island, who then married an alcoholic husband who beat her, and that sort of got genetically passed on down, even though nobody knew that was in the family, and we were reacting. So pretty much every single one of us has patterns that we're reacting to that are coming to light. And so you can see how that is happening in the world today. And really what it is greater light of consciousness is coming into each one of us. And so it is shining the light on those dark things. And then we see that reflected in the press. It's like spotlights are shone on people who carry that kind of behavior. And so we've been like continually triggered. We've been like feeling confused. We've been not feeling like ourselves because all of this stuff is up. And what Janet is reminding us with, taking deep breaths and bringing us into heart space is that we aren't our patterns and we aren't our past.
Right. Okay, that feels better.
Yeah.
Well, and I did you want to, yesterday we were talking, it was about what happens for you on your walks when you were thinking about your mother and realizing that some of what you were feeling was about that, and how you dealt with that. Can you share about that?
Yeah, because I literally, I kind of upgraded a technique for myself.
Okay.
And so now let me recapture it, because, I'm going to put it on a video sometime. So what I was aware of is that initially I was aware of that I was carrying all my mother's pain.
Okay, there's one thing. Okay, so feel that, everybody.
Right. No, you don't
that.
No, you can.
You don't want to
that.
feel it. You just want to notice it. Yeah.
Exactly. You can just you can listen and breathe through this.
Yeah.
But you don't have to feel my pain nor my mother's pain. Is that I recognized that I was carrying my mother's pain, and I have a story in my storyline where I spent 2 years back in Washington, D.C., helping her die when she had Alzheimer's and cancer. And so I know I physically took it on in a way that I wouldn't have had I continued to stay 3,000 miles away and only talk to her on the phone, kind of thing. Yeah. Though we do absorb stuff from our parents just because they're our parents. But there was a bigger thing that I took on there. And I realized that I did not need to actively carry that information anymore, even though I still feel like I have to let all my brothers know what it was like, because, hey, we grew up in a misogynistic household. So I don't need to carry that in the present moment. And I won't necessarily forget that when I want to write the book about taking care of my mother so that the whole world knows about it. But I can archive that. I got the awareness that, you know what? I can archive that. Because, you can put stuff on your detachable terabyte, external hard drive. And then it doesn't have to clog up your operating system now. So I archived that, and then I archived my father's pain that I didn't even know I was carrying his stuff, but why not? Because I was the projection of all his issues with women. So I archived that, and then I went and I started archiving, so to speak. I'd say out loud, I'm archiving family patterns that weren't even my family patterns, but the ones that I can recognize.
Family patterns.
Yeah, or my ex-husband stuff that I see going through my children. I was archiving that, and then my current husband's stuff, and most everybody of these people are all dead, but we're carrying those patterns. So I was archiving left and right. And then I added a few more things, which you will have to sign up for our updates to get that. But it was an amazing experience, because walking and sort of saying this out loud helped move and shift stuff in a different way than if it had just been like an intellectual exercise or psychological or journaling or whatever. But I was shifting my state and moving these energies into an archived place where I could be fully in the present moment and moving forward in my reality, not everybody else's.
there's so many lovely things about all that experience that you described, Joan, that any of us can tag into. And I think that it's interesting how we layer information. So there was your mother's pain, and then as you cleared that, then your father's pain showed up. And that's kind of the way we stockpile things, I think, inside our memory banks and in our bodies is, it's sometimes you pull from the top, sometimes you pull from the middle, sometimes you pull from the bottom, and you never know what might be in that pile, And so there's an access point that shows up. And I think we need to always remember that anything is an opportunity for more. And we explore not because we're forcing ourselves to. What we're doing is we're allowing something to shift, and then all of a sudden something over here opens up, and you didn't realize that was the doorway, when you were playing with what you were playing with. And then also the walking and in the movement of that, and in the nature of that, and how that helps the strength of nature to carry this. And you're very earth tuned, and with all your backgrounds and stuff, and how in walking those steps there's a release and a connection that are happening at the same time. So we want to encourage all of us to maybe, it's not just sitting someplace and got your head down and you're focused on something. That movement can be so important, or that's why you go to the beach, or that's why you go for the hike.
And the point is that you don't have to process this.
Right.
And you don't have to go through Freudian analysis for 75 years. And you don't have to peel away the layers and actually know these stories, because I'll have to say is that we're dealing with generational patterns. So, in there's something like family constellations, they go back like 10 generations, but I think they're, it's like 25 generations, and you're not going to know what those stories are.
Right.
And you don't have to process the stories that are not yours.
Mm-hmm.
You can archive those. Your reality is not going to disappear if you archive those old stories, because your construct, your life is new and fluid. It's kind of like if you're carrying old data on your iPhone 8, you don't need your dumb phone stuff there. You can have that archived too. You can archive it in the cloud or wherever you want to put it. But the importance, so here's the other thing about being in the present moment, is reality is shifted. And you were talking about being in touch with nature and being earth. My experience with the earth energy doesn't feel like earth energy to me anymore. And I'm a Taurus, I'm a Chinese year of the earth pig, but it does not feel like the earth anymore. It's a much higher experience, just like if you are watching cartoons, and we're not Steamboat Willie anymore, but we're certainly not Speed Racer, or we're in this level of CGI that is light and fluid and movable. And when you are in the present moment, you're comfortable with that. I think you can go with the flow.
I think what you're talking about is shifting from our idea that we are the containers and responsible and the burden and the obligation to hold on to these things. And when you take the energy and you shift to, well, that's okay, but that's not me, but let's put this in an archive. What you've done is you've energetically shifted something. And it's on an energetic level now, and you can experience that in many different ways, that shift. And that's what you're looking for. And so you are no longer having to hold it in your physical sense of what your aura and all that body is about, but you've moved it off. And you'd be surprised what shows up when you kind of release the obligation, the burden, because families are very strong that way, that we carry on the next generation, right? And there can be so much ambivalence and energies and potency in all of that cocktail. So you just move it over there, and you'd be surprised how it can be very, very subtle, and then it could be just very releasing. So Yeah.
Yes, subtle and effortless. So when I find that I am working as consciousness, it can be instantaneous. I mean, Janet, you know this
Yeah.
with your own energy work, is that you do
Yeah.
something and blink, it is shifted.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a slow process. It's spontaneous. It can be curious. It can be playful, and all of those things I think of are attributes of consciousness. And when you are aligned as consciousness, then it is very easy to do, and your body shifts as well. So your body doesn't have to be held within that density. You're talking, we're holding space. You used a bunch of very dense words, which
Yeah.
I can't remember and I won't repeat, but we are recipients, and we are containers, and then we will carry the things our families pass on, or will compensate, and will carry stuff that our parents didn't have. So for instance, maybe being overly grounded, if you had a parent who wasn't grounded at all, then you're the one who's the stable one.
Yeah.
I'm observing that in family patterns right now. And you can be free of that without the entire family system collapsing. It's reorganizing instead. So, so
Yeah,
that.
so much what we are is in reaction to, or in opposition, duality or something. And I love what you're saying about having to take a position because someone else important had the opposite position. So we're going to do that. And the challenge is to remember that there are a lot of variables and distinctions between this and this. And so we need the lightness of the one, and we bring what we are, and it becomes different. You would never be exactly like that other person. This is not possible. When you really look at it, that's them, this is you. Now you share a lot of information, but we're both going to be different with it. And in appreciating that, what a little give, what a little leeway, what a little lessening of control, that human that's, monitoring all this has a little more fudge to it. And that's what we're looking for, the fudge, the wiggle room.
Well, I don't know about fudge, because my blood sugar I won't be fudging, but
you'll be wiggling. Okay.
Yeah, I might be, natural fruit gelatoing. I don't know. Maybe just a nice juicy pear.
Oh,
peach or
that
pear,
sounds
right?
pretty good.
Real fruit. That's a little more
that sounds really good. Yeah, just distill it down to the juice. Yeah, I think that's good. Well, what else we were commenting on is all the charges, the energetic charges can be emotional, mental, psychological, whatever the charge might be on something that's in here, in this mishmash that's collected inside that we might be feeling. And so we might be feeling moved in ways we aren't really thinking that that's us, right? For all of us. And that's really what's neat about right now, is the ability to go, just a minute, that doesn't feel comfortable, or me, or whatever, and not be attached to that. Just be able to notice that, oh, something released, something's out, that's fine. And it's done, and it's gone, and it's discharged, and that we can be thinking in those terms as ourselves, as consciousness, because that's the way it works. So,
well, and here's another fun way you can do this too, is, let's say you're at, in the United States, you're at the 4th of July picnic, and suddenly you're 8 years old in your mind, or you realize you brought the potato salad that you always hated, but it was the one your mother always brought. And why on earth did you as a vegan put bacon in it? And so wherever you are right in that moment, take a little step to the left or to the right and notice what is different. And what that does energetically is that shifts you into not only a different perspective, but it can literally shift you in a different reality where it is unfolding differently. And that's what we're talking about here, is that that kind of, it can be that easy to completely shift out of a long-standing, long multi-generational experience. Boom, the ties are cut, and you're in a completely different experience. And it's, as Janet was saying, it's subtle. And what I notice for myself is that I might just feel a little buoyancy within, and that is a validation that I made a profound change. So we all have this opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. And, there with it, holidays are always great because they represent family. For some reason, I don't know why. But, whether it's a Christmas or a Thanksgiving or a 4th of July, and it's people get together and families get together. And you may find that let this be an opportunity for you to be among your family with a to the left or to the right or a step back, and just see what shows up. Allow yourself to let something different be possible. And because you'll notice how you felt about getting together. You'll notice what it felt like when you said hello to them, and you'll notice. And so you get to just bring more awareness to the plate today and notice in a sensory way how you feel, what's your first reaction, what's your second reaction, and be kind to yourself, be kind to them, and see what happens. It's always opportunities.
Hey, Janet, I just want to really quick remind people before we take the next break. I want to remind you guys how to get in touch with us or stay in touch with us after the show. You can go to our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and there you can actually get some free stuff from us. Janet and I got a couple of special gifts there for you. So if you go to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, you'll find out what they are. And you can also listen to our old podcasts, even the ones from last week. You can listen to our podcast. You can read the blogs that Janet and I put out. And you can also find out about our meetups. Janet does hers in Portland, and I do mine up in the Seattle-Tacoma area. And then you can also learn about our individual sessions. And if you like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you can also get the links to us there. I have a YouTube channel as well, and I post my shows on our website as well. And Janet, you've got some groups, right?
Groups, Zooms. Yeah, Zoom. Video conferencing. So if you're not familiar with Zoom, it's a business platform. I think it probably started for those companies that had lots of. Janet,
that's way too complicated. Zoom is just a different form of Skype. Otherwise, when you say business, suddenly you've lost everybody. It's not like that. There's nothing business-like about Janet whatsoever.
It's just different platforms. So you just download it, and then you're connected, and it's live, interactive. So it's it's powerful stuff. Thursday mornings, 10 a.m., 6 p.m. on Saturday. No, Thursday. Oh my gosh, where is all that info going?
Well, actually, sorry, I distracted you, but it's Thursday mornings at 10, and then also again at 6
p.m. Pacific.
And this is Pacific time. Because I have to say, with being on air with Janet, is that it is a very powerful experience, and so this is an opportunity that you can go there and feel that vibe and fall on your face without anybody else watching, and have an amazing experience. So you can get those details on our website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And I want to really quick let you know that I have meetups starting up again. I took the month of June off to reorganize, and I'm going to be in Tacoma this weekend on July 7th. I'm going to be in Seattle on July 15th. I'm going to be in University Place on July 21st, and then on Vashon Island on July 28th. And you can get the details of which libraries they are and what times they are on the website, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And don't forget to get your free gift when you go to that site as well.
Yeah.
We need to stop for a really quick break. And so hold that thought, Janet, and you guys hold this thought, and because we will be right back after this talking about consciousness and freedom from dictates.
Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs. Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I am your host, Joan, along here with Janet. We're talking about consciousness and freedom from past dictates.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see if it's easing a little bit. I think, there's so much going on in the world, and there's so much, so that collectively I can feel that calm that's in there, and it's just all these fluctuations at this. It's the top. So if you think of it like an ocean, everybody, the water's kind of rough up there, and a lot of that is coming from below. So just sink lower, move over a little bit in that ocean. Just notice that there's tremendous life under the water, and that it has rhythms and patterns and waves, but it's just all a little bit less stressful. And you come up now and then and you check and see what's going on and ride the wave a little bit, right? And then you come down. So
yeah, and that's a very good thing to remind people, is that you're not always soaring in outer space, and that isn't your point for being here anyway, because your point for being here is to experience physical form.
Yeah.
However, you don't have to experience physical form nowadays with the levels of density that we are seeing reflected in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the freedom from past dictates. It's also the freedom from the past patterns. It's freedom from the past expectations and ways of doing things. I tell you what my training was for being in body from the early 1980s. It's a whole new world now. It's as different as our phones were from 1981 as they are now.
I think what's important is that this time in us noticing our past patterns is the transformational time that wasn't available before to those patterns.
Yes.
And that's what we're all embracing, is that it will never be the same again. it will always be different. And the more you allow that to be real, the more you allow those family dynamics to just transform in that moment, it's done. It's gone. So it becomes a choice, and for us who are in this moment. And that's how for those of us that are service oriented and look to find meaning in our lives, this is how we serve. We serve family dynamics. We serve genetic lineages. We do it to the past. We do it to the present. We do it in the future, all going on at the same time, So just, yeah, let yourself breathe, everyone. Just let yourself breathe. And it's not about being burdened by it. Don't turn your ability into obligation or burden. Allow it to come from that place where it's delight. It's lovely to be able to be this and to function and have a body and have feelings and thoughts. That's consciousness. It's all consciousness at core.
Yeah. I'm not going to repeat some emotion-laden words that you just said, but I thought that was interesting because that was definitely, a reflection of historic expectations that we were that were passed on. And I will have to say that I really enjoy the people that I notice that are from a younger generation, that are woke, that are questioning these things. And, so they'll just call out these things. And it can be extremely uncomfortable if you had been operating with that concept or paradigm as your reality and suddenly realize it doesn't have to be that way. So very interesting to watch how this stuff is all unfolding.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm so glad to be who I am right now because of my skill sets, because of my awareness, because realizing that we are all much more than what I might have learned as a child. And that potential is real and it's active, and grace is real and active, and love is real and active, and all these different things, as much as any negative and we're going to call it negative because we so love positive and negative. It's a nice little dance we create for ourselves. If you just take all and go to a neutral place and you go, oh, there it's going up, there it's going down, that doesn't mean anything. That's just the way I observe a pattern. Then you have less attachment to all of this. And that's important too. It's what context you're viewing history and knowing your history and letting it not be the anchor to that what was is what we have now. It's appreciating that, this is where the placeholder is, and what if I move it over there? And it's having that skill set and that flexibility of mind and malleable reality that comes into play. So,
and reality has a rhythm to it. It has an ebb and flow. It has a pendulum swing. So as intense as it may feel now, the pendulum swings in another direction, and and ultimately, what is dissipating is not real, and what is showing up is more real. So that's another way I look at those things.
Yeah, all different kinds of ways to notice. And when we use the word notice, we're opening up to our sensory experiences and beyond, right? We have physical sensory and extrasensory perceptions, and it's utilizing all of those things, and the joy in being able to experience information that way, in those ways, and what you do with it. And each of us are going to do something different with it. So that gives us the spectrum that consciousness is, and how we're all part of that. And it's so nice when other people think the way we do and do what we do when we want them to do it. But that's one possibility, but obviously there's lots of other possibilities. And being comfortable with that, being fluid about that, being able to appreciate different perspectives, because appreciate that we're all in this together. And as consciousness, it doesn't have a preference to what shows up. It just is. So it's embracing that more.
Yeah. Well, everything to consciousness is fun.
Yeah.
To consciousness, this whole reality is a game. It's not a life and death, experience. It's Disneyland. And when you align yourself as consciousness, when you start to acknowledge yourself as consciousness, then you start to appreciate the game. You can appreciate the game as opposed to being in the midst of the game going, oh, this, I really am being chased by the saber-toothed tiger kind of experience. There are no more saber-toothed tigers. So when you're in the present moment, you go, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. We're lucky to have the tigers we have.
Right. This body is not Cro-Magnon. It is.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Okay, I went a couple different places off of that. So let's see if we can. Where was I? Yeah. Something there. Well, maybe it'll show up. Other information. I think things are are okay. It's about being. There's consciousness. Everything fits into consciousness, right? And we add the distinctions, the colorations, the flavors, the directions, because consciousness is about all. It's all. So we are all setting, I suppose we could say, our own course or our own direction, or it's getting outside of your pattern enough to be able to observe it for what it probably really is. I think people are probably in that place, Joan. It's like, okay, here's the story, and this is the way it is, and you've convinced yourself on some level that it's okay, but on the deeper levels, it's not okay, but you're going to call it this anyway. And it's really about someone else knocking on the door and going, that's not good. And you just rationalize it all away, right? And I think that's where people are with what they hold inside of themselves, is they're looking, they're feeling, they're experiencing the awareness of those two different places. And just breathe, everybody. And just... I'm not into judging myself so harshly anymore, Joan. My control mechanism has gotten a lot more gentler as I inhabit this place. And if there's no judge, and it's just information, it's just vibrations and resonances and colorations and thoughts and feelings, and it's just all these things, and I get to pick what I want to play with and embrace, and there's nothing more powerful than that, right?
Yes. I was talking to someone today about suspending judgment, and in order to be in the present moment in certain relationships in my life, probably in all relationships in my life, but I was talking about specific ones, I had to suspend judgment. And I was thinking how years before I had very black and white thinking, and that person would have been this label, and and they were having da thinking, and in order to transform the relationships now, I have to transcend those labels and the things that might have been psychologically true in the past. That doesn't allow for different possibilities now. So we have to transcend a lot of what we thought was absolutely true, or the trainings that we had, or the teachings that we had that said this was absolutely true, because nothing's true and everything's true.
Right.
That's just the way it is. It's a big paradigm. Paradox.
Yeah, so if we just take it back to its energy, take any label off of something and just allow it to be energy, what might be different? What might you experience differently? Those labels are really helpful to the human. The brain loves mind loves labels. And when you release them, something different probably will show up. And your attachment to your certainty, and that can be kind of shattering to a lot of people. It's important to be really certain because of whatever has gone on in the past. And so that's that fluidity and that flexibility we were talking about, not having to be this so that you're not that, and where there's grace in all of that. And so, just breathe. It all goes back to breathing.
Yeah.
Stop and breathe.
Well, this has been a lovely conversation, and there's so much more, but it does feel like time to remind people how to stay connected with us. Because if you're enjoying these kind of conversations, if this is sparking changes within you and you want to stay connected with us, find us at our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. We actually have a couple of free gifts there for you. So if you go there, you will discover what they are. Big mystery right now. So go to consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. And what are they going to find there, Janet?
What,
Besides
at
the
our
big
website?
mystery?
Oh,
Yeah.
they'll find all our podcasts. You'll find our blogs. Joan and I write great. We're great writers. We write very differently. We write about different stuff. But, whatever the style is, we really have good commentary, I think, on what's going on around us. And you can enjoy those and get all the old ones. All our social media information is there. And all about the meetups and groups that we do and with clients. So there's lots of information there to check out.
That's right. And we have meetups. Janet has hers in Portland on Tuesday and Thursdays. She has groups via Zoom, which is just like Skype, but you can record it more easily. And that there is information about signing up for her groups there. I have a summer coaching special starting. So if you are really wanting to uncover some core patterns and navigate your life completely differently, to have that feeling of effortless and ease that we're talking about, check out my summer coaching programs. And if you're in the Seattle, Tacoma area, I have a meetup near you, and you can find out more about that at consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. Anything else before we slide into home?
No, just hit a home run. Or if you only hit a ball, or if you strike out, it's about enjoying the game and being present. How about that for the holiday? Lots of baseball out there.
Yes, we'll have beer and popcorn and hot dogs.
Yeah.
Cracker Jack.
There we go. There's a good thing.
All right. Well, have a wonderful 4th of July if you're in this country, and have a wonderful 4th of July in any country.
Yeah, really. Freedom. Oh, my gosh. Well, that goes someplace somewhere sometimes.
And we just want to express our appreciation. We thank you so much for joining us, regardless of what time or space it is for you. You have helped create this in the moment. And you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet. And
thank you so much, everyone. Have a wonderful time today.
Tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.